Hello world, welcome to the next OMB Policy Library live stream demo. I'm Will Sullivan. I'll be your DJ MC for this presentation of the work that's been done for the last 2 weeks. And without further ado, we're going to jump into show that work from the Udon sprint. This stream that you're watching, or if you're watching on replay, you know it's on YouTube. You can go and check out previous videos in the playlist and see all the work that we've been doing building up to this, and also follow along. Share this with your coworkers, have a nice movie night with your family, all sorts of fun things. These are great artifacts for the project. So please tune in every 2 weeks on Friday. And without further ado, we'll jump into the demo. And we're going to talk about the preamble with Ryan.
I'm really glad you said my name because I forgot to look at the order. So, preamble. Let me share my screen. I'll just share my entire screen. Let's get crazy. So, preamble. So the current preamble is this what I believe is kind of a default kind of Django for the policy editor. And we just kind of had some questions about what needs to be here, what doesn't need to be here, what is super important, what is not very important. So I was able to sit down with CM and we kind of hashed through a bunch of, we just kind of went through these item at a time. And so if I were to kind of change this around a little bit, and this, I won't even say visually, just in terms of order. You know, I always like to stack my labels in my forms. It's more mobile friendly, blah, blah, blah. But so these are all of them right now. And then after talking to CM and Caroline and a couple other folks, we kind of pared it down to something much more simple, which would be just the title, the policy number. If it doesn't have a policy number, you could check this little box, and then the slug would light up, and in a perfect world would pre-populate with the title that you've already entered, and then the issuance date and the sunset date. And then you would hit next, and then you would, you know, you've already uploaded your PDF at this point, I think, maybe. Yeah, and then you would just see this stuff, you know, that you would just have your stuff at the top, and you could change it here or whatever. And but that's just kind of a first pass for preamble. And then secondly, the other thing I wanted to talk about was the viewing all the policies. So if you logged into the editor and you wanted to see all the policies that were in the library that you could edit or had access to or whatever, what would that look like? And so starting from Austin's editor view, if one were to click the View All Policies button there on the left, my first inclination was just a giant list of stuff. It's too long a list to put in the sidebar because the titles are so long and there are so many of them. But this isn't super navigable. It's not really that helpful. So then I thought, oh, well, what if it was just alphabetized? You could just click on the letter that you wanted to, you know, you knew it was started with a G, so you clicked on G. The problem with that is that some of these policies also have numbers. And so would you click on M because you know the policy number was an M, or would you click on G? Would it show up in both places, neither place? So it wasn't really a great vehicle to surface that information. So then I was thinking about, well, what if it was more of a search or filtering? I don't know what the right word is here. This is definitely still in kind of exploratory stages. But it'd be great if you could just start typing the name that you were looking for. And the default view would just be, of course, be the name, everything, in just one really tall page. But as you typed, like if I searched manage, the list would, you know, just cull down as you typed, and you would just get the, you know, the words that highlighted that you were searching for. Something else to think about would be what other pieces of information could we surface per policy that might be helpful for someone that was looking? For instance, and again, this is kind of just to kind of start the conversation, but when it was uploaded initially, or when's the last time it was edited, or I think we've kind of talked about having a status. It'd be interesting to see, you know, and that would be, I think another layer in here that I haven't mocked up yet would be a sort. So you could sort by status, sort by last edited, sort by upload. Author could be something else we could, that I don't know if that would be helpful or not, but something to talk about. Also, I thought it would be cool if you could also see your recently edited. I don't even know, I don't think these are the words for this either, but I think it would be helpful to see the last, you know, 5 policies that you edited so that you didn't have to search for it. You could just quickly jump to it. I also wonder what would happen if we had to handle an image. And so this is my cat sleeping last night, and I thought you would all get a kick out of his derpy faceplant sleeping position, which I think is really funny. That is all. On to whoever's next.
Tool.
Okay. Can you all hear me?
We sure can.
Awesome. I'm going to share my screen. Well, okay. I'm going to show something that is really a whole lot of the work that was done this sprint was on the back end in allowing different kinds of editors on the front end to be able to submit changes to documents, to policy documents, and have them, you know, show up in the front end viewer. So this here is a little basically to provide a bit of context. Last sprint, I showed a prototype of a what you see is what you get style editor that would allow people to edit certain parts of policy documents. We wouldn't be able to support all parts at first. As an example, here is part of M1619 that contains a table and math formulas. Partly because this is a complicated kind of content to provide WYSIWYG style editing for, and also partly because there's not a ton of policies that actually use math and tables. We're almost certainly not going to be able to support WYSIWYG style editing of these out of the box. So until we do, we're going to have some sort of concierge style service, either that us developers would actually perform, or folks at OMB who are just very comfortable with markup might perform to edit this sorts of content. So this document editor here is a very, very unstyled attempt at that. So this is Akoma Nitoso-ish. I'm actually not super familiar with Akoma Nitoso, but CM tells me that this is only Nitoso-ish and not necessarily complete and valid Akoma Nitoso, but it is an XML format that is much easier to read and understand and edit than a raw JSON output. And we're using a really handy code editor widget called Code Mirror here that gives us lots of free stuff out of the box. So as an example, if I wanted to change this formula here that says total GFA of energy metered data centers, I could press Command F here and type in total GFA. And so it takes me to the table where I have this math equation, and I can edit it. I'm just going to put the word blonde here. I'm going to hit Command S to save it. And now when I reload this, it says total GFA of energy metered blah data centers. So yeah, this is obviously way less friendly than a what you see is what you get editor. But the advantage is that you can edit absolutely anything in the policy to your heart's content. Yeah, this isn't actually in this particular editor is not actually in the code repository yet. So this is not actually going to be a feature that will be available ASAP. But the pull request for it is almost done, so it should be committed early next week. And just to reiterate, the way that our API works is that you can, when you submit something to it, you can submit it as either XML in this format or as JSON. The demo that CM's about to show uses that JSON endpoint. And when you get information out of the API, you can also get it out in this XML format or JSON. And that's about it.
All right, I believe I'm up next. I will try sharing my screen here. All right, can everybody see my screen? Looks like it. Great. So this is a small feature that we originally referred to as status flagging. But the term status has so many different meanings in relation to these documents that we decided to refer to it using the term workflow phase. It just refers to what phase in the workflow the document related to a policy is in. For PDF import, we anticipate that the phases will be as following: a no document phase, which is when no import has been attempted; a failed import phase for when import has been attempted but fails for some reason, a download problem, parser can't handle it, something like that. A phase that we're calling cleanup, and this is the editing phase where the PDF has been imported and parsed, but it still needs little finishing touches to correct typos or OCR issues, that kind of thing. Once cleanup is finished, it'll be moved to the review phase. We're not certain yet whether the person doing the editing will be the same person doing the review, but either way, we anticipate that there will be a review phase. And once that's done, it'll move to published. When we get to the point where we're using the editing tool to create the document, we have a no document phase, then we have an edit phase. There's no failed import here for obvious reasons, then review, and then published. At the moment, the PDF import process will flag things as failed or cleanup. But beyond that, moving between the phases will be done manually in the admin tool, which looks like this. It's just a simple drop-down field where you can set the status to any of those. And that's it for this feature. Back to you, Will.
Okie dokie. And next we have production prose mirror with CM.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. Flip over. All right. So as Atul was mentioning earlier, we kind of have these two modes for an editor. We have an advanced mode that accounts for all of the cases because it's raw XML. And then we have a more structured editor that's more of a WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get. You'll recall that last sprint, Atul showed this prototype for a WYSIWYG editor based on something called ProseMirror. This sprint, a major component was trying to take as much of that prototype as possible and convert it into something that's productionalizable. So something that accounts for more corner cases, deals with authentication, begins to integrate the rest of the app, that sort of stuff. Just make it a little bit more usable. And so that's what I'll show you now. This is the demo site. I'm going to go to a URL that isn't linkable in the UI just yet, but the document editor. And the first thing we'll see is I need to log in because this is now behind authentication. password manager. And here we see more or less what Tool was showing last time. We have the content of the document, and it's loading any document we request. So this is M1619, M1611 will also load. If I try to load something that doesn't exist, I'll get a 404. We've got the content here, and you see these little pink bits throughout. And the pink indicates that this is a part of the document that we don't have an editor component for. So these are things that you wouldn't be able to modify in this mode. You would have to make your changes to the text that you can, save it, and then go into the XML editor to futz with the fiddly bits. Like right now, we don't display footnotes or headings or tables, math, things like that. So this is what we're going to deploy today. We've also been working on just moving that forward a bit. So this will be shortly in the future. We've added things like headings, inline elements like the footnote citations. But more important than that, we're pulling in styles from the UI so that the editor begins to look more like the UI, so people see what they're expecting. So we can see that the heading font here, the spacing between headings and paragraphs, that matches more or less what's in the UI. And so that's the strategy we're going to take going forward. And when speaking of style changes, I think we can hand over to Lenny.
Yep. Let me see how I can share my screen here. Can you see me?
Yes, we see your smiling face, but not your screen.
Not your screen.
Huh? Oh, here we go. All right. My face is still smiling. Okay, so just a couple visual updates to share with everyone against the admin dashboard that CM was going over. So over the last couple sprints, Austin and Ryan have been user testing, or actually Austin and Carolyn have been user testing different changes to the interface for the entering and reviewing documents. And then Ryan has been working tirelessly on updating what the visual theme and aesthetic of the pages will look like. So because the current administrative dashboard has been very much the default styles that the Django CM added a way for us to theme the current Django dashboard. And slowly we're moving over to have styles that reflect the user tested interface. So by combining the visual colors and elements from Ryan's dashboard and document, we're now at a point where the current admin panel has a sidebar, and more meaningfully, we're able to visually style the Django theme dashboard administrative interface. So some of the cool things here are this provides a way for us to theme the existing admin panel, both using CSS, using customized style sheets, but also we're able to provide some visual interface for, in the future, white labeling or making a visual from some kind of what you see is what you get editor with colors and hex codes. So this is something that will be up soon, and then soon enough, the final implementation of Austin's designs will be visible. And when we have that, you'll be able to see these kind of nice changes. So I believe the current sidebar and visual changes aren't going to be live because it looks a little bit funky, but maybe as soon as early next week, we'll see this. So with that, I will pass it back to Will.
Okie dokie. That concludes what we're going to show today. Next demo will be Friday, February 2nd in 2 weeks. Assuming well, I don't know. We'll see what happens with the showdown and the shutdown. And now we'll move into our fun segment for feedback. You can go ahead and close this window and just dial into the phone number there with the conference number, and we'll have a open phone line with the team on and discuss the work that's been done, collect feedback, talk about plans for the next sprint and so forth. I'll keep this open for a little while you dial in, but I'll see you on the other side. Hello world, welcome to the next OMB Policy Library live stream demo. I'm Will Sullivan. I'll be your DJ MC for this presentation of the work that's been done for the last 2 weeks. And without further ado, we're going to jump into show that work from the Udon sprint. This stream that you're watching, or if you're watching on replay, you know it's on YouTube. You can go and check out previous videos in the playlist and see all the work that we've been doing building up to this, and also follow along. Share this with your coworkers. Have a nice movie night with your family. All sorts of fun things. These are great artifacts for the project. So please tune in every 2 weeks on Friday. And without further ado, we'll jump into the demo. And we're going to talk about the preamble with Ryan.
I'm really glad you said my name because I forgot to look at the order. So, preamble. Let me share my screen. I'll just share my entire screen. Let's get crazy. So, preamble. So the current preamble is this, what I believe is kind of a default kind of